Hey guys, Will here. So it's been about a month and a half now, 2 months since I got my Sim-Labs P1X all up and running, and I promised you guys that I would do some follow-up videos, sort of running through any adjustments that I made, anything that I sort of found that maybe I wasn't so keen on, as well as the things that I'm really enjoying about this rig. So being about a month and a half down the track now, I thought now is a good time to do this. Also have to pull some things apart and make a couple of changes for some reviews that I'm going to be working on over the next couple of weeks. So we'll get stuck into it today. We'll move the camera across now. I am just going to be using the handheld camera today, just so I have the freedom of movement to sort of show you everything in detail. So the three things that we're going to be focusing on today are expandability, adjustability, and rigidity. And those are all three things that I've been extremely impressed with the rig. But first of all, let's run you through some of the changes that I've made since we did the initial assembly and first impressions videos. So the biggest changes that I've made is I've added a movable plate or a seat rail to my pedal plate there, as well as made some changes to how my Lusso motors, which I am going to be reviewing separately, of course, how I've mounted that Lusso motors seat as well. So we now have a complete adjustability on our pedal plate as well as our seat. All we need to do is just pull the lever up and the thing moves forward or back. It's a little bit hard to do with one hand, but you get the point. And exactly the same deal with my pedal plate as well. So basically these are just Sparco seat rails. I actually purchased these from Simlabs themselves. And I've just slid it forward there for you now so you can see exactly how this works. So the bottom rail is just basically mounted to the profile there. I did have to drill a couple of additional holes in each location just to make it all fit, but that wasn't a problem. Just a normal steel drill bit did the job. So a bolt through each side there, and then a bolt through from the top rail for the pedal plate itself. And then, yeah, we have complete adjustability, which means that I can jump in, anybody else can jump in and adjust it to their preference, and there's no issues whatsoever. So if you want to adjust it back again, just pull it up and just slide it back into position and it locks in place. And of course, the big question is there any flex? With the 120 kilogram load cell HE Ultimates that I've got mounted at the moment, absolutely no discernible flex at all when I'm driving. And you guys can see for yourselves in this shot as well. Same deal with the seat as well. This was a lot more difficult to mount, not because of the P1X, but because of the seat, the combination of the seat and the motion platform, I should say, because there's nothing inherently wrong with any of those things. It's just when you put the combination together, it was a little bit tricky. So again, I had to drill some additional holes for the seat rails. I'll take you through all this in more detail when we review the seat individually, but basically the spacing for the holes on the seat didn't quite match the spacing for the next level racing motion platform. So I did have to do quite a bit of drilling and swearing to get that to all work. But basically what we've achieved now compared to how things were when we initially set this up is we've got the seat about probably 4 centimeters lower than it was before. You'll remember before we had some aluminium profile rails that were sitting on top of the motion platform just to allow us to move the seat around without having to drill any additional holes. We also didn't have the adjustable rails on there at that point in time either. So that's all fixed up now. And again, very simple. You just pull on the lever and the whole thing moves forward or back. So those are the main changes that we've made since. We've also added our seat belts as well. And these are mounted in the same way that I did on my next level racing rig previously, where we've got the Oki straps down the bottom and they're basically just mounted through these little hooks that I built. And yeah, that gives us a little bit of seatbelt tension as well when the motion platform moves around. We've got our butt kicker mounted to the butt kicker mount that comes with the next level racing platform as well. So essentially all of this just drops into the P1X as you saw in the installation video, using 4 bolts, 2 on either side, and the mounting rails that you can purchase from Simlabs as well. So in terms of adjustability there, obviously you can move this forward and back along the rails there, and then you've got the adjustability built into the seat rail as well. So yeah, basically anybody from about 4 foot tall to about 10 foot tall could probably use this. So the only area where I've run into a little bit of difficulty with regards to adjustability has been the uprights for the wheel platform. And that's simply because with the next level racing motion platform V3 mounted, that does add about 10 centimeters of additional height here. So if I hold my little measuring stick there, you can see about 10 centimeters worth of additional height over what it would be. Normally you would have your aluminium profile, so you'd have your 40 mil profile sitting on top of this, and then the seat would mount on top of that, plus the rails if you have them. So you've probably only got about 40 mil plus maybe 2 centimeters or 20 mil for the rails, and then the seat on top of that. So we're adding, you know, roughly as it sits right now, about an additional 6 to 7 centimeters of height here over what it would be normally with the seat just mounted straight to the platform. So what that means is I have to have my wheel plate pretty much at the absolute maximum height here to work for me. I could probably go about a centimeter higher if I really needed to. Could push this up a little bit more, but yeah, it's pretty much maxed out. And this is a very shallow seat as well. So if you have a taller seat with more padding in it, then that is going to raise it up even more and you might run into difficulties there. So just be mindful of that. Now, admittedly, it is quite a unique usage case, and I understand the reason why these profiles are quite low, because a lot of people actually like to have their monitors mounted, you know, along this plane here or right on top of the wheelbase. And if these uprights are taller, it would block you from being able to have your monitor across the top. So it makes sense that they do it that way, but just be aware that if you are mounting a Motion Platform V3 with a thicker seat, you may need to look at getting some longer profile pieces to be able to mount your wheel platform. But yeah, look, other than that, adjustability wise, you can also obviously slide your side rails forward and back along this rail as well. And yeah, it really, I can't think of any way that anybody could not make this fit them, regardless of what seat, what wheel you have, what pedals you have, how tall you are. Really can't think of a scenario where you would run into issues, other than if you've got a lot of additional height underneath here, as I do. So let's move on to expandability now. And you can see I've got a ton of stuff mounted on this. I've got my Fanatic handbrake, which is mounted to the side of my shifter. Shifter is mounted to the Fanatic shifter mount from Simlabs. We've got my Simicube 2 Ultimate kill switch mounted there. My butt kicker kill switch as well. We've got our mouse mat, and I'll talk about that in just a moment, and the reason why I've got a Next Level Racing mouse mat on there. We've got our keyboard mount as well, and all of these things just bolt straight on in any position that you want. They just lock into a T-nut. I've got my WinSim fans mounted as well. That was a little bit awkward to sort of figure out. On this side, I got it mounted on the outside, which is preferable because obviously you want to have it away from your legs as much as possible. On this side, it was a little bit more difficult to mount it there because I've got my hook for my headphones as well as my keyboard tray. So I put it on the inside, but there's still plenty of clearance there, and I'll show you that in just a moment. We'll jump into the rig and show you exactly how all that sort of lays out. And then up on the front mounted plate for the Simicube or Midge, we've basically just got our button box there, and that's just double-sided taped on with a cable tie to secure it in position, and that hasn't moved at all. I know it's a little bit jerry-rigged, but again, because I'm going to be moving things around and changing, I actually have a different wheel plate that I'm going to be reviewing over the next couple of days. So I kind of had to do it this way just to make it as simple as possible. I didn't really want to be drilling any holes in this either. Now, there is a dedicated button box mount from Simlabs as well, which I will be reviewing soon. But to be honest with you guys, for now, I haven't really felt the need to use it. This serves the purpose perfectly fine, does everything that it needs to do, and I haven't really felt any need to change it. Then over this side, we've got my Stream Deck mounted. And again, this is just double-sided taped on, and it doesn't move at all. So no problems there either. So I'll quickly jump into the rig now and just show you a couple of other bits and pieces. So sitting in the rig now, a couple of other little observations. So in Australia, we drive on the right-hand side of the car, which means we have the shifter on the left. So I didn't actually think of this when I ordered the mouse mat and everything, but because I'm sitting on the right-hand side of the car, shifter on the left, my mouse has to be mounted on the left-hand side. Now I'm right-handed, but obviously we don't have this same mounting rail that we have on our shifter side on the right-hand side. And there's really no easy way to mount a mouse mat here without adding a whole bunch of additional profile just for the sake of a mouse mat. Now, you could do that, of course, but that obviously creates a problem getting in and out of the rig, because if you have one of these mounting rails on both sides, you're going to have to sort of climb over the top every single time to get in and out, which is a bit ridiculous. And what I did the other day was actually go and buy one of these wireless Microsoft keyboards, which has the touchpad built in as well. So usually what I'll do is I'll just pick that up, put it on my lap, do what I need to do, and then chuck it back over here when I'm not using it. Swing it out of the way. No problems, out of sight, out of mind. Now, I'm sure you're wondering why I have the Next Level Racing pads on the keyboard tray and the mouse mat over here, simply because Simlabs don't supply, or at least mine didn't come with their own branded ones. If they did, I definitely would be using them, but the Next Level Racing ones that I had kicking around happened to fit perfectly, and you can see it's a nice painted finish for sure. There's no problems there, but using a mouse on a mouse pad always feels a little bit nicer than the scratchy surface there. And it also stops the keyboard from sliding around on this as well. I also think it'd be really great if they added the provision, just some mounting holes here, just some tapered mounting holes, so you could also add a mouse pad or a mouse mat, or even just bolt this one directly onto this side, just so you have an extension there. It'll make it a lot easier to use a mouse for people who are right-handed that have their shifter on the left, or people who are left-handed who have their shifter on the right. So yeah, that's probably the only, I guess, thing that I would call an oversight from Simlabs. Everything else, I feel like they've kind of thought of everything before I do. There's really nothing else that I've kind of gone, why did they do that? Or I would have done that differently. I mean, Obviously, I'm new to aluminium profile and I'm inexperienced with it, but there was never really a situation when I was building it. And I mentioned this in my construction video. There was never a scenario where I kind of thought, oh, this is tricky, or this isn't quite going together the way I would expect it to, or this would be a lot easier if they did it this way. Yeah, look, everything was really simple to put together, and I do encourage you to watch that video if you haven't, because I really did enjoy just the process of putting everything together and not having any problems. It was nice to just sort of go through and everything to just kind of work. So that is pretty much it in terms of expandability. Obviously, there's a lot more things you could do. You can mount your monitors directly on here as well. Simlabs do also sell some mounts for that if you wish to do so. I went with the standalone monitor stand, which we have a separate video on. So there you have it, guys. I'll keep this relatively short and sweet for you, but if you do want to see any more detail on all the little finer things like how the T-nuts work, you know, how everything goes together, then do check out that assembly guide. I'll link it in the description below for you guys, as well as above my head for you right now as well. But yeah, look, honestly, there's not a whole lot to add over my initial impressions when I first put this thing together. Yeah, I mean, it's all just been straightforward. There's been no problems at all whatsoever with adjustment. I've been able to get things into the right position. The only difficulties I had were around things that were unique to my particular usage case with the motion platform and, you know, height adjustment and things like that, and trying to get the seat mounted without adding too much additional height. But in terms of the P1X itself, I honestly haven't even needed to go back in and tighten anything. It's just been absolutely flawless from beginning to end. And I think, as I mentioned in the initial assembly video, it was just a pleasure to put together as well, which is rare for something so complex. Usually you're kind of waiting to see what's going to go wrong next, what you're going to struggle with. But it was just an enjoyable product to put together. So absolutely no problems at all recommending the product. And yeah, I'm expecting that this is going to serve me extremely well for many years to come. In fact, I don't really think I'm ever going to need to buy another sim rig. So very, very happy with it. But yeah, as I said before, check out that previous video if you're wanting to see more detail on how everything goes together. But yeah, honestly, the only things that I would really change would be adding provision to have the keyboard tray mounted directly to the mouse tray, so that if you want to use it on the right hand or the left hand, it's easy to change around. And all that would really require is just a couple more pre-drilled holes to add that compatibility. You can easily drill it yourself. It's really not a problem, but just something that would be nice to see added, as well as it'd be nice to have an included mouse pad and keyboard pad as well. But really, you know, again, not a big deal, something that you could easily get custom made yourself, or just buy something else off the shelf if you wish to do so. So I'll leave it at that for today's video. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Leave a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it. We're going to have some really exciting hardware reviews coming up over the next couple of days. As I mentioned, I'm going to be putting the DD2 back on the rig now for some testing. So yeah, guys, stick around. Make sure you're subbed if you're not already, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss future videos. And I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.